Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kathy.
Hey, everyone today is all excited, right? I saw on YouTube today, all the vloggers are doing the exact same thing. They're riding the monorail to Epcot. Now, I was watching, and I'll tell you a couple things about the monorails and the monorail to Epcot. Do not ride the monorail to Epcot if you don't have to. I'll tell you that right out the bat. Before we talk about the monorails, because there's a big problem with the monorails. If you can drive to Epcot, it is much better to drive to Epcot from the Magic Kingdom, because what people don't realize is if you're in the Magic Kingdom and you're like, hey, I want to go to Epcot, or if I'm in Epcot and I want to go to Magic Kingdom and you take the monorail, there's not a direct monorail from park to park. You have to go to the transportation center and change monorails.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Every time?
Every time. Yeah. Yeah, there's no direct monorail from Epcot to the Magic Kingdom.
You change monorails.
There's no direct monorail from Magic Kingdom to Epcot. You got to go to the transportation center. And that takes time. And it's really, I've gotten a little...
But do you have to change monorails, or you just stop and pick up people and keep going?
Oh, no, you have to change monorails. You have to get off and walk across the platform and change monorails.
That's crazy.
I know a lot of people don't know that.
I don't think it was that way back in the day.
You probably just didn't do it that much.
Yeah.
And I have done it many times, and then a lot of times I'll just drive, and actually it's faster to drive from park to park because...
If you can get a good parking spot.
Well, yeah, it's better to drive from park to park for me personally because, one, it's faster, okay, because, you got to wait for the monorail to get there, then you got to wait for it to load and all that stuff.
It takes about, honestly, to get from... Magic Kingdom to Epcot, about 30 minutes.
Yeah, it does.
Sometimes.
Takes half an hour.
Yeah.
It takes half an hour. And here's the other thing about it is, okay, and this is another reason why...
It used to be quicker, I swear.
I don't take the Epcot monorail back and forth very often at all. And if I do, after I do it, I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to do that again. And I'll tell you, I'll say, Kathy, remind me never to take the Epcot monorail loop again.
It seems like it used to be easier to get around the parks when our daughter was little. It just seemed quicker. Now
there's more
the
people.
buses take longer.
They're more crowded.
Yeah, I mean, I've waited for buses sometimes an hour. Before you wouldn't wait more than 5 or 10 minutes. Long time ago.
And there's another reason why I don't take the now again, this is if I have a car, and I always have my car at the park. So if you don't have a car and you're from out of town, maybe a little different about this. Those are for those of us who are at the parks with cars. And here's the other thing, right? If I take the monorail loop either way, like say I go to Epcot first, I drive to Epcot, I park my car, and I take the monorail to Magic Kingdom, right? Okay, I go to the transportation center, I change monorails, I get to the Magic Kingdom, woohoo, I took the monorail, wow. I leave the Magic Kingdom, and then, oh man, my car's at Epcot, and I got to go through the whole thing again.
You got to remember.
I got to go through, and by that time I'm so tired. I
don't think people realize how long it takes to get from park to park.
Yeah.
Whether you take a bus, the monorail, or a car, or the ferry, or a boat. Mm-hmm. I mean, it takes a long time to get from park to park. 30 to 45 minutes usually.
And I'll tell you another thing too. If I go to Epcot last and my car is parked at the transportation center at Magic Kingdom, right? I've gone to Magic Kingdom in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I've taken the monorail to Epcot, and I've walked around the World Showcase. I'm exhausted, and then I'll be, oh man, I wish my car was here at Epcot.
Well, the thing you got to do,
just leave.
Yeah, the thing you got to do if you're driving is leave your car where you're going to end up.
That's right.
But make sure that's where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So if you're planning on going to two parks, say you're going to Epcot, but you're going to go to Magic Kingdom first, then you might want to go park at Epcot and then take a bus or the monorail back to Magic Kingdom. And then you come back to Epcot and your car's there waiting. But if you do that, though, what if you change your mind and you decide I don't want to go to...
It's best to drive.
So I like personally driving just because we can leave when I want to, but I'm disabled. It's easier and I don't have to wait on other transportation.
Yeah.
Now they are hopefully bringing back the minivans. They canceled those for a long time because of COVID. So I think they're bringing those back hopefully soon.
Well, for me
they're
personally...
starting to open up more hotels too.
Now, for me personally, because we always have our car there, even if we're staying, for a few days, we have our car because we live in Florida.
Right.
But when I leave a park, it is so nice to get in my car and have it and go where I want. I don't have to wait for a bus. I don't have to wait for the monorail. I don't have to wait for anything. You know, it's nice just to be able to leave. So that's just this thing about everyone's all excited today. Woo, the Epcot
It just
monorail.
seems getting around I mean,
it's a
Disney
nuisance.
World is not as fun as it used to be.
Maybe because we're older.
No, I don't know. It just seems, I remember a long time ago, I'm talking like in the 90s and early 2000s when our daughter was little, that getting around the Magic Kingdom was kind of part of the fun in itself. But I don't remember super crowded buses. I don't remember waiting more than 10 minutes for a bus. Everything was much quicker.
It's more crowded now.
And now it just seems you're crammed in, you're waiting longer. Now, I don't know, maybe because the Skyliner, I know they built that because the buses were overloaded. So maybe with the Skyliner that's alleviated some of that. They just have so many people. It's interesting because no matter how expensive they make Disney, it's still just as crowded. People still go.
Part of the problem is,
like us,
is back in those days, like if you're talking about the 90s, early 90s, there weren't as many hotels as there are now, so there weren't as many people staying on property. So people had to go to offsite hotel. There's more people on property and everything else, and it's more crowded. And I can remember back in the 80s and early 90s, Magic Kingdom would close at like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And nobody even thought anything of, okay, they're closed. And, because there are a lot more people in the parks today, even with these restrictions. Now, here's another thing about
they're
the
opening
monorails.
later now because they're opening, leaving the parks open longer now.
Now, the monorails that we currently have are the second wave of monorails at Walt Disney World in Orlando. They went into full operation in 1991, but they started replacing them from the original 71 monorails in 89. So some of those monorails are 32 years old. Now, I am all for Disney being nostalgic and retro, but the monorails are, they're like falling apart. And
that's pretty old.
Now, they have refurbished some of them. I will say this. They have refurbished some of them, and I've been on the refurbished monorails, and they look better than they did before they were refurbished.
Yeah, but Disney World has the crappiest monorails out of Tokyo and California. They got nice new ones. Yeah. In Tokyo, they have windows shaped like mouse ears. And California just got new monorails. We need new monorails. I don't know why they won't put them at Walt Disney World. They're old.
When I went to Disney World when I was a kid, first time I was very young, and of course, but when I was younger, even as an adult, the monorails I just thought were super cool.
They are cool.
And everything that goes along with that. And now, they're like, I know they did some refurbishments because, like one of the doors opened up when it was on the track with passengers and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
So they've done some refurbishments. But they still look kind of worn and beaten up, and they don't look retro. They just look old, even with the refurbishments.
Well, there were rumors a few years ago that they were, remember Mickey Views, Brandon was saying how they were getting new monorails, and I don't know if they tabled that idea, but they were talking about 4 years ago. They were going to replace all the monorails, and they were building them with some German company. So I don't know if they scrapped that, but that should be a priority. They need new monorails. They're really old and dated.
I'm of the opinion that the monorail system at Walt Disney World. Now, Disneyland's different because at Disneyland, the monorails are more like a ride than a form of transportation, okay? It's, it's kind of like almost like the people mover in a way, a little more than a people mover, but kind of like here at Walt Disney World, it's actual transportation. And I always felt that, and I think Disney did too, that the monorails are like the signature look of the parks. And if you go back...
I think so for sure.
Yeah, if you go on YouTube and look at the opening day stuff, from Disney World, it's always the monorails. Going through nothing is cooler.
They're still cool.
Than going through the Contemporary.
No, it's still cool to me.
Yeah, for
the monorails
beat
are
up
still
cars,
awesome.
Yeah,
they still look futuristic. It's one of the things at Disney that has definitely stood the test of time. They're not obsolete. They're still cool and modern looking, but they're just the ones they have are a little beat up. They just need to get really nice, sleek, new looking, modern, better looking ones.
Now, I'll say something a little controversial here. If this is too controversial, Kathy, let me know, okay? Now,
why are you involving me?
Well, just let me know.
No, I'm going to stay silent on this.
If it's too controversial, let me know.
You put it out there, and I'm just going to...
No, I'll tell you. Okay. I'm telling you, no, I'm serious.
Don't get me involved.
Because I'm not judging anyone. I'm not judging anyone.
You judge people?
Or anything.
Never,
I'm not.
Never.
But I want to make an observation about the monorail. The capacity of the monorail, I can't recall exactly what it is. I think it's a little over 200 on the monorail, and it is a greater capacity than the original monorails. The 71 monorails had a capacity of 160 something. I know there's a guy that used to be a driver on the monorails, and he has a YouTube channel, and he put up all this. He stopped doing it because he ran out of monorail stuff to talk about. But he went through all these behind the scenes stuff as being a driver on the monorail system, and he drove both the original and the ones we currently have because he was there during the transition when it happened, and he talked about the capacity. But the capacity for them, and this is a problem with the monorail system as we know it, and one of the reasons we need an updated monorail. And I know this will be controversial, and please, no one be offended. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that
you're
Disney
making an
needs
observation.
To take things into account. The capacity of the monorail system we now have, again, I don't know what the exact capacity is. It's a little over 200. So that's how many people they put on it. Okay. Now, the first one of the current monorails went on the track in 1989, the last one in 91. So that means those monorails were probably designed like 1985-ish, 86-ish. You know what I mean? When, whatever design that was a couple years ago. People are larger today. They are wider today than they were in the 80s.
Overall, that's true.
And if you don't believe me, go on YouTube.
Go to Walmart.
And go to Retro WDW?
Yeah.
Watch the old videos from the 70s and 80s, home movies that they put up there, completely remastered and looking beautiful. And you'll notice two things about the parks. One, people are thinner, okay? And also people are dressed nicer.
It's true. And
so the capacity today it's overcrowded because people are bigger.
People are taking up more space.
Exactly.
Well, and I think you can make that argument in the park with the park capacity as well. I mean, I know it's controversial to say that, but it's true. And people that's a scientific fact. People are bigger overall than they used to be. When I was a kid in the 70s, people just ate differently and had more active lifestyles than a lot of people do now. And especially kids, teenagers are heavier and this and that. They take up more girth.
So that 200 and some monorail capacity may only be like 180.
It doesn't take into consideration the girth of people. I think that's a valid point.
Okay. So
and I never thought about that before. So I think that's a valid point, and I don't think it's offensive. I think it's just an actual
the capacity is misleading.
And you could say that in the parks too, because people personally have more BMI and take up more space overall. So it's just the way it is, and that's okay. We're not judging. I'm not Miss Skinny, but they when you move around and when you're on things like that, that might be, if the number of people is the same.
Yeah,
that could be a factor.
Yeah, so
I don't think a lot of people consider.
So I think we need new monorails.
Yeah.
And when they bring in new monorails, I'll tell you.
So you think they should lower the capacity to accommodate the larger size of the population?
Yeah, that monorail channel that I'm talking about, I think is called, can you look it up? I think it's called Monorail. I want to say Monorail Monday. Because he used to do them on Mondays. And it's a really good, he used to he doesn't do so much now. When he does different things. But if you go back a couple years, he worked exclusively. He goes through everything, even the training and everything they had to do. It was a very interesting channel. That's it, Mr. Oh no, it's Mr. Coaster, Mr. Coaster 1, and that's the number 1, Mr. Coaster 1.
Yeah,
and it's
he gives
the number
a lot of
1.
monorail stories.
Yeah, and he used to do them on Mondays. You got to go back a couple years because stuff he does now has nothing to do with that. But he gives you all kinds of insight into how they train and everything else, and it's really cool. You learn everything you ever wanted to know about the monorails. He even tells you where the break rooms are and stuff for the monorail.
Plus, I don't remember as a kid having so many strollers. And look, I'm disabled. I use a wheelchair, but there were no scooters in the 70s. I don't think they even had scooters, ECVs back then. They probably rented regular wheelchairs, and in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, I don't ever remember
They're
seeing
just out of date.
So many disabled people.
Yeah, and the point is, the monorails...
And I'm disabled, so, from my point of view.
The monorails are over 30 years old, some of them, even refurbished. They're still, they look like they don't look like a refurbished car where, somebody buys a classic Chevy and redoes it. They look like, you can tell. And also, the design doesn't really fit for today. So we need new monorails. They need to be designed better. You know, one thing I like at the now I've never been to Disneyland, but I've seen the monorails on people's vlogs and stuff. One thing I like about the monorails that I've seen at Disneyland is how you seat facing out, like like in the middle where I'm standing, you can the seats
like
face
on
out.
20,000 Leagues.
Yeah. I don't know. They need not only do they need new monorails, they need to be designed better to make them a little more comfortable. And when they brought in, and I learned all this stuff from the Mr. Coaster One
I
YouTube
would
channel.
like you said, I would like a monorail where everybody sits, because right now most people are standing and they're holding on to like metal bars, and when they slow down and stop, people literally fall on top of each other. It's not super safe.
Yeah.
And the buses have the same problem. Somebody got hurt a couple years ago because the bus got in an accident or made a quick stop and people fell on top of each other. There should be no standing on any bus or monorail. Everybody should have a place to sit.
Yeah. Now, how...
Just don't... That's the way it should be.
Now, how they redesign... I'm not an engineer. I don't design monorails, but we need new ones, right? Mm-hmm. I think everyone agrees with that. Yeah. Okay. You can leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think about the monorails and everything we've talked about involving the monorails. These are just my opinions. I don't think these are all that controversial. I think a lot of people are thinking the exact same things about the monorails we're thinking.
Well, I want to talk about this. My mom sent me this video from Disney Food Blog, and I don't know how my mom happened upon this because she just doesn't watch Disney videos. She doesn't like Disney too much. But she sent this to me, and it's from a month ago from Disney Food Blog, and they go through the 7 worst hotels based on TripAdvisor, which I think is a very clever idea to go through TripAdvisor.
Disney on property
hotels. Oh. And it was very interesting. And if you haven't seen the video, you could check it out on their thing because they go into more detail. But they have the top 7 worst, I don't know if you call it the top, but the 7 worst hotels on property. Number 7 is the Polynesian, which...
Now, that was before the refurb.
Right. They just did a refurb. But you were there about a year and a half ago, and you said it definitely looked kind of dated.
It looked...
And a little...
It looked... Well...
Not kept up.
Okay, I have not been there since the refurb. It looked dated and dingy, like the Brady House on the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I think the colors are very dark, and it definitely needs to be brightened up. And, the color scheme of the Polynesian has not changed too much. The outside where it's like
brown. It's an original hotel.
And oranges. Yeah. No, I know, brown and orange. That's very 70s because it's a 70s hotel. And that's how it looked a lot in the 70s. I stayed there in like 79 with my family, and the outside looks very much the same with the brown and the wood. It does look Polynesian. But I've been to Hawaii, and where I stayed, it was very bright and floral and colorful. So I would like to see that. But the complaint was that it just looked old, looked dated. That was the main complaint. Took too long to get room service, which AJ from the Disney Food Blog said that's a chronic problem on all property, that it could take an hour and a half to get your food, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think the main complaint people had with the Polynesian is it's considered a luxury hotel. And for the price you pay, which could be about $800 a night, people have higher expectations, which they should. Disney has a habit of taking advantage of people. They used to not do this. You understand? They used to not do this. But now they do. And if you're staying at a hotel that's $800 a night, plus you got add-on taxes, so you figure $900 a night, you should be able to get room service within about 20 minutes. It should not take 90 minutes to 2 hours to get a burger. That's just,
so that
to me,
was 7. I'm
insane.
Surprised at that.
So that was the main complaint.
So what was next on the list?
The next on the list was Pop Century.
What's the big beef with that?
The rooms are too small, which I agree they are. We've stayed there many times, and the food is awful, which it is. I've never had a good meal there.
It's like the cheapest hotel on property, isn't it?
No, you have the All-Stars, which are coming up.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the Pop, and out of all the value, it's considered like a value. Of all the value, that's the one people like the most. It is on the gondola track now, which is cool. But we've stayed there a couple times. The rooms are very small.
Yeah.
They're the same size as the All-Star, like 265 square feet. They updated them. They look great, but they're small. And I didn't personally like the food. I love the shop they have there. I love the way they're decorated for the holidays. They have good gift shops, but they didn't like the lack of food choices because they only have like one food area, and people didn't like the food. That it was like just not very good. And I personally didn't love the food there.
Now, the next one I see is Riverside. Is Riverside the hotel that used to be Dixie Landings?
Yeah, I like Riverside.
What do they have a problem? I haven't stayed there in a long time, but what's the beef with that?
The problem they had with Riverside, the main problem, and it's also with another one on the list, is it took too long to get to the main house. That the hotel was too big.
Yeah.
And if you're not staying right near the main lobby, it could take like 15, 20 minutes to go get a cup of coffee.
It is far.
I think they should have, with these resorts, now they do this at Animal Kingdom. I think they have 2 lobbies. We stayed there once. We stayed right near the Jumbo House, but I think they have another little lobby on the other side.
That is a nice hotel.
Yes, they really need to have with these larger resorts, because something like the Coronado is huge. They need to have a second lobby area.
Well, the Riverside, I liked
I liked Riverside.
We have not stayed at the Riverside
since it was Dixie Landing.
Yeah, and I this is how long ago it was. Okay, we'll date ourselves here.
And we loved it.
But the last time I remember staying there, it was still Dixie Landings, and it was the weekend that John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane crashed, because it was on.
That's how long
it was on television there, and I remember
been going a long time.
So it may have gone through some changes, but I did stay.
But people did like the French Quarter, which is right next door, but they didn't like this one.
Now, I did stay there when it was Dixie Landings when it first opened, and of course, anything when it first opened is amazing and everything. But when I first stayed there when it first opened, I was like, wow, this is like unlike any other Disney hotel I've stayed at. And it was super cool, but we haven't been there in years.
Well, the main complaint, it has a pool, and a lot of people complain that it takes a long time to get to the pool, but the grounds are beautiful, they're larger, and you have to understand, when you stay at some of these resorts, you are not going to be right near the main lobby unless you get a preferred room, which is more money. You could be a good 15, 20-minute walk from the main building. So you do have to know that. Okay, then number 4, which is surprising, was the Contemporary. And the main complaint was, in the main building, it was too loud. I've never stayed in the A building, in the main A-shaped building.
No, we've stayed there a couple times, but not in the main building.
We've always stayed in the wings.
Too much money
too
for the
loud. One person complained that the noise from Chef Mickey kept them up till, really late. So that was a complaint. And I wonder if that building shakes from the monorail. I don't know. And they didn't like the decor, which they're redoing to Incredibles theme, at least in the main building. So that was the 2 complaints with that.
I'll tell you this. I like the Incredibles, okay? But I'm not crazy about them updating the Contemporary to that. The Contemporary is an opening day hotel, and like the monorail, it is an icon of the park, like the castle.
Absolutely.
And it really, I don't believe, should be altered from its original form hardly at all. I know they have to update and change things, but there's no need into making that into a Incredibles hotel. I think that's a big mistake.
I love the Incredibles. I do. You can ask Brian and Emily. I watched the movie. I've watched it a million times, but I don't know why they have to attach characters to every freaking thing at Disney to sell merch, I guess. But the new look is cool. It's like a lot of white and gray and reds, and it's really cool. You go in the closet and they have a painted on the wall the costumes of the characters. But to me, that's not like futuristic and contemporary. The Incredibles is kind of a retro look. It's kind of like supposed to take place in the past. It's kind of got a modern retro look.
I'll tell you,
I don't think of it as like something futuristic.
There's no need
or contemporary.
There's no need for it to have a character attached.
No, it
should
doesn't.
not have a character. They have a retro hotel at Universal Studios Orlando. Which one is that? I've stayed there, and it was really
the Cabana Bay.
Yeah, the Cabana Bay. The Cabana Bay.
That's a cool place.
Is super cool. It's like it's 1961 in there, and it's super cool, and it's not attached to characters. There may be characters I don't remember, but it's not like a character themed hotel. The one at Universal.
The hotels at Universal are not attached to characters at all. You have the Sapphire Falls, which we're staying at again. That is a gorgeous hotel, and that's a Caribbean themed. You have the Cabana Bay, which is like a 1950s, 60s kind of Havana thing.
Which is the one is it Cabana Bay, the one where they have that building off to the side that's round, that's tall? Which one is that?
I'm not sure.
Well, but
there's no characters attached to their hotels.
Yeah, I like the Universal hotels better that I've stayed at, and
they're bigger rooms.
Yeah, the rooms are bigger
and they're cheaper.
The themes are better. They're all better that I've stayed at. Now, I've not stayed at the Aventura yet, but I think I've stayed at every hotel other than the Aventura, including Hard Rock, and I think their hotels are far superior.
Better. They're less expensive and the rooms are bigger. That's true.
So what's next on the list?
Okay, so after Contemporary, the All-Star Resorts, which they were refurbished, but the problem again, small rooms are too small. The food they didn't like. And I personally, now that I'm older and my daughter's older, and Brian and I really just go the two of us, I don't like to stay there because it's mostly kids running around, which I don't.
That's the last thing you want at Disney World are kids, right?
I don't mind kids. I like kids. But when I go to Disney now, I like to relax. I like it to be a little more quiet. So I have to disagree with the number 2 on the list, actually.
Yeah, and the All-Star hotels and things, when they first opened up, they were kind of like discount hotels, And what did they call them? They call them
value
resort. And now again, we're older than all you guys, but I think we paid like $75 to stay in
when
these
they
hotels.
first, yeah.
And they were actually value resorts. Now
they didn't like the distance from the parks. They're far away from the parks.
Yeah.
It could take 45 minutes to get to a park from the bus. They're very crowded, lots of kids running around, and the food is not that good. It's not, but they do have great shops. They do have a great shop. And I like the look of the value resorts. They're cute, and I like those big, huge statues they have outside. I just, I think those are really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not a snob. I'll stay at a value resort. I have no problem. I've stayed at almost every resort on property. Number 2, I don't agree with the Coronado. I love that resort. We've stayed there many times, and that is a resort you get a lot for your money. The rooms are about $300 a night, but it's a very nice, they remodeled the whole thing. It's a very nice resort. It's more for adults. It's very quiet, very quiet, relaxing, and they have that new tower, which is amazing. Apparently, they have a good food area. The food's really good, but that was number 2. They didn't like it because it's so big and it takes 30 minutes to get to the main lobby,
now,
I guess.
the Coronado, we stayed there last during the construction of the new building.
Yeah.
Okay. And we stayed in a building that was far away from the main lobby area.
Yeah.
But it was a really nice room. And I thought it seemed to be really nice, very quiet, very secluded. Not a bad size, but it's also, the Coronado is a convention hotel.
Right.
And because it's a convention hotel, there's a lot of different things going on there that you don't see at other Disney hotels.
A lot of people didn't like that, which I can understand because the hotel wasn't heavy on Disney theming.
Yeah, and when we stayed there,
it doesn't feel like a Disney hotel.
Yeah, it
doesn't.
And when we stayed there, they were having a convention from an arms manufacturing company, and I remember there were people talking about selling. They were like salesmen talking about how they sell like missiles and rockets. I thought it was very strange.
But, a lot of conventions.
But you never know what they're going to have. Yeah, because it's a different crowd there a lot of times because it's a convention hotel.
And I haven't stayed in the new tower, but we've seen pictures and it's absolutely beautiful. And the rooms are really nice and it overlooks the lake. I like that resort, but that was number 2, according to TripAdvisor, of the worst hotels, which I'm shocked because, like I said, you can get a room there for about $300, sometimes even less. And that's considered a moderate. It's not a luxury hotel, but it's very nice, and the rooms are very nice. They redid all the rooms. They're larger, they're very clean, and they're kind of minimalistic, which I like. But the theming on Disney, people said, was lax. And I will say the color scheme needs a little work. It's all brown. Everything's brown and black. They could use some more color.
Absolutely.
Okay. The number 1 resort, which this really surprised me, that had the worst ratings on TripAdvisor, the Caribbean Beach.
Okay.
Which is shocking to me. We've stayed there. I love that place.
We've stayed at Caribbean Beach, I think, more than once.
A long time ago, though.
Yeah, and...
like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and...
It's on the gondola track. They remodeled the whole thing.
Yeah, and I had a great time there. I don't know. It seems like a nice hotel to me. I don't know. What's the big complaint?
The main complaint there was... for the money. Now, again, this is considered a moderate hotel, so the rooms could be $300 to $350. And I think with some of these hotels, there's an expectation when you spend more money that you're going to have a more luxurious experience. This doesn't work that way at Disney.
No.
The hotels are way overpriced there. You are paying for location.
Caribbean's a
pure
moderate.
And simple.
It's a moderate.
Yeah.
Okay.
People expected more for the money they spent.
The Caribbean is a moderate, but it doesn't feel, to me, it feels like a value resort.
That's what people complain about.
It seems like it should be a value resort.
It's too casual.
Yeah. The
resorts, now here's the resorts I like. And I like Coronado. And Caribbean, we went when Emily was little. And I really loved it there. I thought it, because I like the whole Caribbean vibe, though. You know, I grew up in Florida and I've been to the Bahamas many times, and I like that whole vibe with the steel drum music. And I just like the kind of casual feel. But we're staying, I have never stayed at the Grand Floridian, which has always been a dream of mine, one of these days to stay there.
But you know what?
I just love it.
You know, I'll tell you.
It's so beautiful there.
Now, if you're like super wealthy, not even on your radar. But to me, we're going up for our 25th wedding anniversary. And I said, well, let's finally stay at the Grand Floridian. And I know it's expensive, you know, but
there's no rooms available. Otherwise, I'd book it. But it's booked.
Is the Grand Floridian really worth the price? You know,
let us know in the comments if you stayed there.
The most expensive hotel I think we've stayed at. I know we've stayed at most of these hotels, but a lot of them were years ago when prices were more reasonable. Okay?
But we're going to be staying at the most expensive for our anniversary. The room we're getting.
Only because it's our 25th wedding anniversary, okay?
We're splurging a little bit.
But the most expensive room I think we've had, I could be wrong about this, I mean, an actual dollar amount, not adjusted for inflation and all that, was when we stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge. I think that was the most expensive individual room we may have ever had ourselves.
I'm trying to think.
And let me tell you.
That was about $450 a night.
Yeah, and
because we usually don't spend more than like $300.
I'm not into spending a lot. And we had a good room right off the lobby, the closest room to the lobby. The room was, I thought, a little small, but that was a hotel I felt like I got my money's worth.
The lobby is, now when we went there, I don't know if it's because I'm on oxygen, but every time I check in to a Disney resort, they upgrade my room because I'm disabled.
Yeah.
So they always put me close to the lobby if it's available. And I just ask, and I'm like, I'll pay extra. And oh no, they're very accommodating, which is nice. And when we went to the Animal Kingdom Lodge, I was really excited to stay there. But, you know, I've never stayed at the Wilderness. That's another one on my bucket list because we've eaten there. It's gorgeous. I love that hotel. But anyway, we stayed at Animal Kingdom and we checked in. And the girl, I did not have a preferred room. And the girl said, I'm going to put you really close to the lobby because you're on oxygen. We were literally like when you walk down the hall from the Jumbo House, when you go down, we're like the first room on the left.
Yeah.
I could literally go to the lobby and be there in 50 steps.
And we had a balcony.
It was amazing.
With the drafts and stuff out there.
Yeah, we were technically on the second floor, which is the floor of the lobby, the second or third floor. And so we could see giraffes and zebras out our back door. But that hotel, the lobby is worth everything. I mean, we went out there. We were there in January one year. It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
And we went out in the lobby at night and they had all the fireplaces lit. It was dim. They had the little lights on and they had music. Yeah. And it was one of the most relaxing times I've had at Disney. It is an amazing, amazing resort.
Oh, yeah.
To me, the lobby is so critical at a resort. And when you go like the value resorts, the lobbies are not relaxing. Like I said, there's kids everywhere.
It's a mess.
And you know what it's like? Relax.
You know, like when
you just can't.
When you're a Pop Century or something, it's like being in the middle of the day at the busiest time in Fantasyland at Magic Kingdom. It's
all the time.
Yeah.
And I like I said, when Emily was little, we would stay there and it was great because she was a little kid and she loved it. And of course, when you have little kids, Disney is so fun when you see it through their eyes. But, you know, my time with raising a kid is over and I want to go to Disney and relax and have a quiet time. So I prefer that. And to me, the Animal Kingdom Lodge is a very romantic lodge. Like the Wilderness Lodge, it's very romantic for adults, couples, because the lobby is so beautiful at night and inviting. And I think the Wilderness Lodge has the same kind of feel, even though I've never stayed there, but I've been in it. But I've never stayed at the Riviera, and you said the lobby was not very impressive, that it's very small.
No, that's a DVC.
But that's a gorgeous hotel.
Okay, it's a DVC, and I went over there on the Skyliner to check it out, and I was not impressed with it at all.
It's pretty, though, isn't it?
Nah, I thought it was average. It was average. They have some cool things outside.
Like the tile, the mosaic.
Yeah, the mosaics are cool, but the lobby was like a miniature. I was not in... Now, I'd not been in the rooms.
Yeah, the rooms
because I wasn't
beautiful.
staying there. But I wasn't that impressed with it. It wasn't like Animal Kingdom Lodge or some of the hotels. We have a huge lobby area. That's
I think
beautiful.
Animal Kingdom and
they don't want you hanging out in the lobby. They want you out in the park spending money.
I think from my experience, the two most beautiful lobbies are the Grand Floridian, because we go there every Christmas to watch the carolers and to see the ginger. That is the most gorgeous lobby, but it's busy. It's busy. And the Animal Kingdom has those to me. So let us know in the comments, what are your favorite hotels and what are the best lobbies? Because I really pay attention to that kind of stuff.
And also your thoughts on our earlier comments on the beginning of the program on the monorails.
Yes.
Yeah,
Tell us what you think about that. I'm sure everybody agrees they need new monorails, though. I don't think that's
well, some of the other comments we made that we're not going to.
Oh, the controversial thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen,
you might get a few nasty comments.
Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Make sure that you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And if you don't already, go to our YouTube channel, Main Street Moments on YouTube. We put our vlogs up there as well as the podcast, and check those out. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.